Hey guys, Codicius here, bringing you another Dominations video. Today we have some exciting new content we're going to discuss. The update that went live July 14th. There are a lot of cool new features and some new balancing that I will cover. So without further ado, let's jump in. Now the first thing that we're going to talk about today is I'm going to give a brief overview of the university because that is the biggest change in the new update. Now, the university allows your citizens to learn from the great leaders of history to improve your army, defenses, and economy. Now, you must be upgraded as a building to unlock levels of the skill tree. So if you look here, you actually have different skill trees. Now, some of these are unlocked through getting X amount of points in a tree, but also they're unlocked by leveling the barracks. You can actually click one and you click here to see what you need. For example, garrison defender damage here, I need university level 2 and warmock level 5. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do a brief overview of each character and give you, my basic description. Now, I'm not going to rank these guys yet. I still feel it's too early to do that, so I'm just going to give you a quick overview of each person. We're going to start things off with Leonardo da Vinci. Now, Leonardo da Vinci's research in the university is much like in his real life. He covers the arts and machines. Now, his level 1 is mortar hit points and damage increase by 3% and upgrade cost decrease. Now, his the level 2 is you're going to increase your chances of marble, which is used for your coalitions in war. He's also going to increase university hit points, increase by 3% per level. Now, the level 3 ones is artillery damage and hit points increased. His level 4 is going to increase your sabotage duration by 3%. Now, what's cool? Now, this is probably one of the most interesting ones in this group in Da Vinci's, in my opinion, is because it's going to give you a potential of having 30% extra long on your sabotage. My sabotage is at 15 seconds. Now, if I max out this book, we're looking at roughly 4.5 extra seconds. So that will make my sabotage last for nearly 20 seconds. To me, that's huge. I mean, one sabotage on the board for 20 seconds is pretty damn awesome. Now, we're going to jump in and look at level 5. Level 5 is heavy tank MK1 damage and hit points increase. And the final one we're going to look at in this book is the Polymath. Polymath reduces university research time by 10%, but this can only be attained if you have maxed out every book in Leonardo's research. Now, let's go and take a look at the next one. We're going to look at Catherine the Great of Russia. Catherine the Great's research is a book of enlightenment, much like she considered herself to be a part of the Enlightenment movement. Now, her level 1 increases infantry's damage and hit points. Now, this right here is one of the most important ones in hers, in my opinion, because this is going to give infantry a chance from where they were buffed to get back on the board and possibly increase their stay in people's armies and maybe make people be more considerable of adding them into compositions. So I think this is a chance for infantry to get back on the board. Now, level 2 is just going to increase garrisons and defender hit points along with the defender damage. So basically, just making your garrisons a little stronger, a little better, make the troops that are produced a little more trained and, better suited for battle. Level 3 decreases garrison upgrade costs and increases the cost to upgrade your town center. So, that's actually pretty good because, that will allow you to get through the ages a little quicker. Level 4 increases city center hit points. Now, what's really cool about that is because we all know that your town hall's health is based off of the roads that you have, and it's also based off, just the deep, what age you're in. So adding that and being able to add a potential of 30% more hit points to your town hall is going to make it that much harder to get that 5-star on you in war. So that's probably one really to look into. Now, level 5 decreases the recovery time of your generals and increases the economic cost to upgrades, technologies, and library. Now, this is probably next to the infantry one. This is probably the biggest one I'm looking forward to in this book because this adds a potential of being able to actually use the same generals twice in one war versus you use your best 2 generals and then your next attack you use your second best 2 generals. In this, you're actually using your best, and if you have this book maxed out, then you'll be able to use them again in the same war. And that goes along with the economic library tech cost, in my opinion, is huge because I feel this is going to bring Greeks really back up on the board because you're talking, current percentages too, so then you're talking 20% reduction to the resource cost of research. Well, they already get that percentage that they knock off, and they get the percentage back. So, and if they have the library of Notre Dame, then I feel the Greeks are really about to become a powerhouse as far as, quick growth goes. Now, the last one that we're going to look at here is coup d'etat, and that's level 6. Now, what this does is it reduces the cost of evolution by 50%. This is pretty cool for those people who don't have, a lot of real money or currency to put into the game. Well, this is going to knock, your first change of your army down to half. So it's originally 600. We're going to knock it down to 300. But even if you've changed your army before and you're not happy with what you have, well, then it's always going to be half of what it could be. So that has a lot of potential, and that's pretty nice if you're into really wanting to try out all the other different armies. This may be a cheap route to be able to do it. The next we're going to look at is King Sejong. King Sejong's research is based in language and legacy. Now, the level 1 decreases tower upgrade cost and increases tower damage and hit points. So, it's just basic, all around better increase to your towers while also decreasing how much it takes to upgrade them because they can get pretty expensive. Level 2 increases the hit points and damage of riflemen. Now, this is pretty nice because there's already a lot of armies, like the British and the Koreans. This is just going to make them that much better. Now, granted, your own rifles and things are going to become better, but I think the nations with the special units are really going to shine with this book. So if you're one of those nations, this should definitely be one of the ones you're really running, going for, pushing hard on. Level 3 is huge. It increases the duration of the protection tactic. Now, you have a potential of 30% on that. If we look at mine real quick, this is where mine is. My protect spell at level 3 has a duration of 43 seconds. So that's a huge increase. I mean, you're talking almost a solid, roughly a solid minute. Put close to a solid minute of protection on your men. That's pretty damn good, in my opinion. Level 4 increases hit points, increases the chance of finding porcelain, which is also used for coalitions and wars, and increases the hit points of the library. Level 4 is really not that awesome to me. I mean, it's nice to get that extra 4 hit points and 30%. Like we said, if it stays, true to 3% per upgrade. The porcelain's kind of nice too, if it goes to one of the coalitions that you're using. Library hit points to me is kind of irrelevant. I mean, it's just a building. So it doesn't really do anything special when it's on the battlefield. It just is a building. Now, level 5 decreases the cost of army technologies or books in the library. Again, this goes back to the Greeks. This is another great book that's going to make the Greeks really good. So, hell, they're almost worth considering a change back to. But I like my Germans. Now, the last level in this one's called Hall of Worthies. Hall of Worthies, which makes university research require 1 less citizen. It usually starts at 3, but it'd be 2. Now, you have to complete all other skills before unlocking. But I think that's pretty damn gnarly. This is probably one of the ones worth rushing because, well, I mean, I've got 16 builders. That would allow me to do 8 of these upgrades at a time versus, roughly 5. So that's pretty nice. Now, the next we're going to look at is my personal favorite is actually going to be Sultan of Saladin. Sultan Saladin's research in faith and defense as a man of faith. It would only make sense for level 1 to have to do with the temple. Now, it requires university level 2 to even begin his upgrades. Level 1 increases the effectiveness of the tower blessing and the fortification blessing, so, increasing the time and the duration of those things. Level 2 increases stable defender damage, hit points, and reduces stable upgrade costs and increases stable hit points. I feel that's a pretty good one there. Level 3 increases tank damage and hit points and increases wall and gate hit points. Now that's pretty nice for people who already have the, what is the Kremlin? The Kremlin already grants that extra percentage to your walls and gates, so this on top of me, hell, they just got even stronger. Level 5 decreases the cost of defensive technologies in the library. That's pretty sweet. And it looks like the final one is actually, in my opinion, the one that is really going to change Dominations on defense, in my opinion. The last and the ultimate of Sultan Saladin, it's called Hold the Gates, and it causes garrisons and stables to spawn defenders 25% faster. Let's take a second and think about that. Like, right now, my Acropolis spawns my first wave of garrisons in 8 seconds, and the second in, I think it's, yeah, I'll look real quick, I don't want to give you wrong numbers here. And I think the second is, yeah, in 20 seconds. So, you know, you knock 25% off of that, then your additional wave's going to spawn in, well, you know, 15 seconds, and your other one's going to spawn in 6 seconds. It's pretty nice. And that goes with your stables and things as well. So I feel like that's huge. You're talking 6 seconds, and I've already got boots on the ground ready to go to war. That's pretty nice. So, like I said, I think that's really the one that's going to change the way that Dominations is seen, and that's why I'm most excited for Sultan of Saladin. The next we're going to talk about is Suleiman the Magnificent. Suleiman the Magnificent's research in law and ambition as the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire in the prime of the civilization, I feel that would be accurate. But like Saladin, your university must be level 2 to begin research. Now, level 1 increases the damage hit points of the mortar troops and increases the damage of the demolition tactic. Demolition, I feel that's kind of good. You know, the demolition can be good if used, but then you're talking extra 30% on it. So, I mean, that's pretty nice. That has potential to, you know, one-shot some of the highest mortars in the game. Level 2 increases the effectiveness of the weapons blessing, increases the temple hit points. Again, this is kind of like the other one. The weapons blessing is kind of cool, but the temple hit points to me is kind of irrelevant. So I don't really see where that's like huge. Now, level 3 increases cannon tower damage and hit points and increases upgrade costs. That's a pretty good one because we all know how crucial those are to taking out those, you know, those tanks that if you didn't have these cannons, would just run your base over. Level 4 increases the chance of finding scrolls in battle and decreases the cost to upgrade generals. That's pretty nice to me because generals are getting up there, man. I think right now, if you actually look past level 10, where, you know, I think most of my generals are, or I'm in the wrong thing. If I wanted to actually upgrade my generals, you're talking 41k oil for my Nobunaga to go to 11. That's kind of insane for one little level. So that's probably one worth investing in if you use your generals a lot. Now the ultimate for Suleiman is it actually will his ultimate reduces wonder power cooldowns by 30%. Now this next to Sultan Saladin is the game changer in my opinion, because you're talking, instead of just one attack in your war, you know, you get to use your, you know, like the strength of the gladiator and, you know, the blitzkrieg for the Brandenburg Wall. Well, if you max out that book, you're going to be able, and you get your timing right, you're going to be able to use both of those in both of your attacks. Now, you're talking, you know, the Blitzkrieg power shuts down all defenders for 14 seconds, and the power of the Gladiator gives your guys a huge attack boost. So, I mean, well, who doesn't want that in both of their attacks, you know? So, to me, that's a huge game changer. Now, the last thing I wanted to look at here, as far as, you know, the university goes, is I want to know who you guys think this is. Now, judging off his weapon, which is stone and obsidian, is you can see the little, you know, black chunks in there, and also that he has the Eagle Warrior helmet. I'm gonna take a wild guess, and I'm gonna think that this is Montezuma of the Aztec Empire. That only makes sense to me, and I really hope it is. As future, who I would really like to see in here, I mean, you're talking all these great, you know, leaders of time and stuff. Where's my Sun Tzu? You know, why is my Sun Tzu in here? He needs to be in here. He's the greatest strategist who ever lived. I mean, we still read his writings thousands of years later and still, you know, abide to his rules. So why is he not in here? Now, he needs to be in his, hell, I would rather take him over Montezuma. Not to discredit Montezuma, he's cool. But Sun Tzu's the man. He needs to be in there. Also, I'd like to see Attila the Hun, because I have a good idea for how they could do Attila the Hun. They could actually make Attila the Hun make his things go really toward looting. Like, for instance, the little cavalry raider, you know, give them crazy, you know, 30% more damage. Because, I mean, that's what he was. He was an army on the move, on the go, so it only makes sense that Attila the Hun would be that way. I don't know, that's just a thought. You know, maybe, you know, tell me if you like, or you disagree, or you agree, whatever. Just let me know down below what you guys think. The next thing we're going to take a look at is the new tank depot. Now, I think this is pretty good because it's going to allow the tank depots to go to level 9, which, if you don't know what a tank depot is, as you can see here, I'm actually taking mine up to tanks, is that you're stable. Now, before it can only go to 8, but now it's going to go to 9, so that's pretty good. Another big upgrade is the medium tanks. The French are actually going to gain the S-35, and the Greeks are actually going to gain the Hellenic tank, and those are going to be special tanks for them, so that's pretty cool. Now, another thing that we're going to take a look at, and actually at the end of this video I've done a quick attack, it's not a great attack, but it was just to show you guys how it works, is the new tactic Decoy. Holy hell, that thing is going to do some work in war, because you're talking being able, like one strategy that I like to use with the Decoy is to play the Decoy, get the army gathered, pay attention to your clock, because it lasts, I think it's like 45 seconds. Whenever you come up on the last 2 or 3 seconds, hit that bitch with your plane, dude, and you'll mow all those guys down. And so that's just one thought, but I think the Decoy is probably at least a 1 out of auto include in people's tactics anymore. Another thing that we're going to look at is actually the World War leaderboards. Now, we took a big loss in our last war. It happens, everybody's lost a war. But that's okay, my guys tried hard, and I appreciate it. I want to discuss how glory works. Now, I'm only going to give a basic understanding of how glory works. As you can see here, this is a sad board, but whatever, it happens, man. From my understanding, glory is the new ranking system for alliances on the leaderboards. When you win a war, you will gain glory. It's the opposite if you lose. The bigger the war and the higher level the players, the more glory you get from war. This is huge. This is what Dominations has been waiting on. Glory has been needed for so long because it's really just been, how high can you make it on the leaderboard? Well, now it's like, your opponents are going to be dictated by the glory, and, who's to say they won't eventually add, like rewards for having high glory, like a daily reward or a monthly or a weekly or something. That'd be kind of cool, just a thought. But I want to hear what you guys think about this glory, but I really feel this is the game changer for war and Dominations, because now it's not just, okay, I'm the top player. No, it's, we can kick some ass as an alliance, we can climb this board, because, I like I said, I just think this is really what Dominations has been needing, and I'm happy to see them, upping things, making things better, going out of their way to try to make things better. And that speaks high volumes for big, huge games, and I look forward to seeing what's next to come. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is actually the balance changes that have been added to the game. Now, tanks are going to receive a damage increase of 8%, and the medium tank, which you get in World War, well, not World War II, but it is World War II, the global age, is the medium tank is going to have a damage increase by 11%. That's huge. It's very considerable, because I only use 4 tanks, but that might almost make me go to 5, just because you're talking an extra 8% now and an extra 11% later. That's a lot of damage output. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, troops are slightly more likely to target defensive towers during battle. That's really cool to me, because there's nothing that angers me more than seeing my men pick, let's attack that temple over that mortar. That really just kind of pisses me off, especially when they're the same distance away. Another thing that we're going to look at is players can only claim 1 troop from inventory. This is huge because Dominations has been doing all of these little events and things, like get the shinobis, get the pirates, get the French dudes, get the elephants, etc., etc. And people have been stacking these things, and then the people who have a lot of money have been going over here and buying you've seen the little packages like act now, you get a battalion of artillery, yada yada, and people who have money have been buying those, stacking them, and then just crushing people in war because they have 10 or 12 of these stacked up, and there's no limit on how many they can put in their army. Well, I think this was needed because a lot of us don't have that type of currency to be putting into the game, and I'm one of those people. And to me, I feel that's a huge balance, because at most, what am I going to have? 1, 2 sets of shinobis? And what, this guy, because he's been saving up and buying all the little microtransactions, has like 10? So I think this was needed. Another one is going to be transport planes will now be targeted by anti-air. I don't know if you know about before, but before, the way that it was working was it was just, they'd come in, drop the troops off, and not even get hit. And I've watched plenty of attacks from those things, and those things are just a little out of hand, best to say. One more thing we're looking at is generals no longer exit the fort for aircraft. This was huge because people were actually baiting your generals out just by dropping a plane, letting it hit something. If it was in range, generals would spawn and come out, and then they would just murk your general. Well, this changes that, and I think that's a good thing, because now people can't just troll your generals. Now, there have also been many more little bug fixes. Now, but they can be found on the patch notes forum in the description below that I'm going to put in the video. Now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for you guys. Overall, guys, this new update may completely change the way we play the game. With tanks receiving a damage buff and the new tactic, I could see a lot of changes in army compositions and an improvement in the nations, with tanks as their special units. Only time will tell how this update will affect gameplay. I really look forward to seeing how things, open up, because Big Huge Games so far, I feel, has some big huge plans for us. But this has been Codicius. See you.